بيان حكم الأكل من اللحم الذي لم يذك ذكاة شرعية. Clarification of the judgment of eating meat which was not slaughtered a religiously sanctioned slaughter. اعلم أن الذكاة الشرعية تكون بقطع مجرى الطعام والشراب ومجرى النفس. Know that the religiously sanctioned slaughter would be by cutting the food pipe, the pipe for food and drink, and the air pipe. Bima lahu had, by something that has a sharp edge. بشرط أن يكون الذابح مسلما أو يهوديا أو نصرانيا, with the condition that the slaughterer would be a Muslim, Jew, or Christian. And who's not any of those? A machine is not any of those. If one of those three pushed a button that makes a blade slaughter an animal, then that instance is valid. But if the blade keeps going and slaughters another and another and another, all of those that were not done by the Muslim or Jew or Christian is invalid. The scholars spoke about this case centuries ago, not because they had the technology we have, but because of the truthfulness of the law of Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, that it is a law for all of the people until the end of the world. Some people think that this technology makes rules of Islam unapplicable, or that there needs to be some new looking into things. How did the scholars speak about this? They spoke about someone erecting something by which, if the animal passes through it, his throat would be cut or his head would be severed, without the person who erected it being the one who cuts that animal personally, then that's not valid. فَإِذَا حَصَلَ هَذَا, and so if this happened, a Muslim or Jew or Christian cut properly with something sharp, وَكَانَ الْمَذْبُوحُ مَأْكُولًا, and the thing that was slaughtered, the animal that was slaughtered, is something edible religiously, like a sheep or a chicken, for example, and many animals, not like a wolf or a bear or something like that, or a pig. حَلَّ الْأَكْلُ مِنْهُ لِمَنْ عَلِمْ, then it would be permissible to eat from that, or to eat that, for whoever knew. وَأَمَّا مَا كَانَ مَوْتُهُ بِمَا لَا حَدَّ لَهُ, and as for that which its death was by what does not have a sharp edge, كَأَنْ مَاتَ بِسَبَبِ التَّرَدِّي, like dying by falling, يعني like it fell off the cliff. أو الغرق, or drowning, and what's like drowning is otherwise suffocating. أو شيء يزهق الروح, or by something that kills instantly, makes the soul come out. بثقله, by its blunt force, literally by its heaviness. لا بحده, not by its sharpness. فلا يحل أكله, then it would not be permissible to eat it. So that's like smashing his head with a rock or beating it with a club until it's dead, or what else? Shooting it with a bullet. Except according to Al-Awza'i, then one has to say the Basmalah. But according to other than him, a bullet wouldn't be valid because the bullet does not kill by sharp edge. And of course, you can send a trained animal or raptor after the hunt or the game according to conditions. وأيضا, and also لا يحل أكل ما لم يعلم, eating that which it's not known. هل ذابحه هو ممن يصح تذكيته أم لا? Is its slaughterer amongst whom it is valid to eat his slaughter or not? That statement, understand it. He said, it's not valid to eat from what it's not known. Is its slaughterer, not where it was slaughtered, not the place or the land in which it was slaughtered. Is its slaughterer amongst those whose slaughter is valid to eat? So the people who want to eat haram food, they divert this case. And they say, oh, we live in a Christian country, so we can eat the food of the people of the book. Those are the people who don't care. لأن أمر اللحم في هذا أشد من أمر الجبن والحلوى ونحوهما. Because the matter of meat in this case is stricter than the matter of cheese and sweets and the likes of those. So what's the rule when it comes to the food in general? As we're going to say, meat by default is haram. Originally, it's haram. So in order for it to be halal, you have to be sure of what makes it halal so you can eat it. Some scholars said meat is like the private parts, which means it's haram until you verify what makes it halal. So when it comes to meat, it's haram unless you know that it's, or believe properly, according to proper rules, that it's halal. Other than meat, then it's halal, and you don't have to check it, as long as it's not something that would normally or should be made with haram. And when I say other than meat, I don't mean wine. Other than meat amongst the foods, not the wine, and not the drugs, not poison. I'm not talking about those things. That's halal. And you don't have to check it. And we've been advised that if you want to check those things, the ingredients of the things, of products, food products and otherwise, like hair products, and then you find that there's something haram in them, we've been advised to not spread that to the people. Why? Although one would think it's a good idea to do so. Why? Because it's not obligatory to check. You can put a great burden on people. You can put a great burden on people who were not obligated to know that, and in many cases would have preferred not to know that, and they weren't obligated to know that. But you took it upon yourself to make them know that. So be mindful about that case. Be hard for yourself if you want, and be easy for the others. And that's along with the fact that some of these things can be made with haram. Bread, for example, could easily be made with haram. If someone wanted to flavor his bread and put grease that was from meat into the water before he puts the flour, then it would be najasa. But you don't have to check. فَإِنَّهُ إِذَا شَكَّ شَخْصٌ, for indeed, had one doubted, هل في الحلوى التي بين يديه أو الجبن الذي بين يديه نجاسة? So if a person doubted, is there in the sweets that he has in his hand or the cheese that he has in his hand najasa, جاز له الأكل منه مع الشك, it is permissible for him to eat that while doubting about if there's najasa in it. He doesn't know for sure. It's not haram for him to eat that. And what did Sheikh say is like that? Gelatin. Sheikh says gelatin has the judgment of cheese. Just like, according to him, just like you can eat the cheese, you can eat the gelatin. وَأَمَّا اللَّحْمُ فَلَا يَجُوزُ الشُّرُوعُ فِي أَكْلِهِ مَعَ الشَّكِّ فِي ذَكَاتِهِ. As for the meat and what's like meat, which is skin and fat and anything else, the liver, for example, it is not permissible to eat that with the doubt, while having a doubt about its slaughter. كما نص على ذلك الفقهاء, like the jurists have documented. كابن حجر الهيتمي, like Ibn Hajar al-Haytami, والحافظ السيوطي, and حافظ السيوطي, من الشافعية, amongst the Shafi'is, والقرافي من المالكية وغيرهم, and al-Qarafi amongst the Malikis. I'm doubting about that, if that's Qarafi or Qurafi. I think there's a Dhamma on the Qaf, but I have it with a Fatha here. And others. بل تحريم اللحم الذي لم يعلم طريق حله. Rather, the prohibition of meat, which the thing or the way that makes it permissible to eat it is unknown, the prohibition of meat about which what makes it lawful to eat it is unknown, بأن شك في ذلك, by there being a doubt about it, مجمع عليه, then that's a matter of consensus. There's no difference in opinion that you cannot eat the meat as long as you doubt about it. So, if you doubt about the validity of your marriage contract, then fix that. Don't be indulged in something and you're doubting like that. In this case, the meat and otherwise. ففي الفتاوى الكبرى لابن حجر الهيتمي ما نصه. In Al-Fatawa al-Kubra, the big book of fatwas, verdicts, by Ibn Hajar al-Haytami, quote, وَسُئِلَ نَفَعَ اللَّهُ بِبَرَكَاتِهِ عَنْ شَاةٍ مَذْبُوحَةٍ وُجِدَتْ في محلة المسلمين ببلد كفار وثنية. He was asked, may Allah create benefit by his blessings, about a sheep slaughtered, a slaughtered sheep found in a Muslim area, a Muslim neighborhood, in a land of blasphemers, idol worshippers, pagans, and there's no Majus among them, and no Christians, and no Jews. None of those pagans are Majusi or Jewish or Christian. But I know that Majusi is haram. We cannot eat the slaughter of Majusi. We cannot marry the women of the Majus also, even though they have some judgments like Ahlul Kitab. So he was asked about this case. فهل يحل أكل تلك الشاة المذبوحة التي وجدت في تلك المحلة أم لا? So, is it permissible to eat that sheep, that slaughtered sheep found in that area or not? فأجاب, and so he answered, بأنه حيث كان ببلد فيه من يحل ذبحه كمسلم أو يهودي أو نصراني، ومن لا يحل ذبحه كمجوسي أو وثني أو مرتد، ورؤي بتلك البلد شياه مذبوحة مثلا. He answered that when it was that it wasn't a town in which there is some whose slaughter is lawful, like a Muslim or Jew or a Christian, as well as some whose slaughter is unlawful, such as a Majusi or a Wathani, means an idol worshiper, or an apostate, and a slaughtered sheep, for example, was found in this town, وَشُكَّ هَلْ ذَبَحَهَا مَنْ يَحِلُّ ذَبْحُهُ, and there was a doubt. Did someone whose slaughter is lawful slaughter this? لَمْ تَحِلَّ لِلشَّكِّ فِي الذَّبْحِ الْمُبِيحِ, it will not become permissible, it will not be permissible because of the doubt in the permitting slaughter, because of the doubt in the slaughter that would make it permissible. Because it's originally haram, there needs to be something by which we can access that. So something makes it accessible, which is the slaughter, and we're doubting about that slaughter, so then that permitting slaughter, he says, لِشَكِّ فِي الذَّبْحِ الْمُبِيحِ, because of the doubt in the slaughter that would permit it. وَالْأَصْلُ عَدَمُهُ, and the origin is that such a slaughter did not take place. The origin is that such a slaughter did not take place. Meaning, sometimes you need to know the origin of things. You might not know, or you might know. So if you learn, you would know what's the origin of something. So for example, what's the origin of your salah, your prayer, in this realm here that we're talking? The origin is that it doesn't exist, isn't it? You're not praying, so the origin is that it doesn't exist. What if you were doubting if you prayed. So the time came in, maybe it already went out, and then you thought, or before it went out, you said, did I pray? And you weren't sure. So then you resort to the origin, which is what? That you didn't pray. You can't just say, I prayed, inshallah, and then you let the prayer time go out. So that's what he means here. Wal aslu adamu. The origin is that such a slaughter by the proper person doesn't exist, didn't happen. وفي الأشباه والنظائر للسيوطي, and in the book الأشباه والنظائر by السيوطي ما نصه, quote, الفائدة الثانية, the second benefit. قال الشيخ أبو حامد الإسفرايني, said Sheikh Abu Hamid al-Isfarayini, الشك على ثلاثة أضرب. Doubt has three cases. One thing you need to keep in mind here is we're talking about fiqh. We're not talking about aqidah, creed. So doubt in belief is different from doubt in rules. شك طرأ على أصل حرام وشك طرأ على أصل مباح وشك لا يعرف أصله. A doubt upon something that is fundamentally or originally haram. That's one. And two, a doubt about something which is originally permitted or fundamentally permissible. And three, a doubt whose origin is not known. فالأول مثل أن يجد شاة في بلد فيها مسلمون ومجوس. So the first one is like a sheep found, or for one to find a sheep in a town in which there are Muslims and Majus. فلا يحل حتى يعلم أنها ذكاة مسلم. And so that sheep will not be permitted to eat until that one knows that it's the slaughter of a Muslim. لأنها أصلها حرام, because its origin is that it is forbidden. وشككنا في الذكاة المبيحة, and we have doubted about the slaughter that would legalize it. انتهى, end quote. أي أن تحريم ما شك فيه من اللحم مسألة إجماعية. Meaning that the prohibition of meat about which there is doubt is a case of consensus. فلا التفات إلى ما يخالف هذا الإجماع. And so there is no consideration given to whatever opposes this consensus. من قول بعض أهل العصر المتعالمين, from the saying of some people of this time, some contemporaries who are fraudulent teachers. That's what the Sheikh says here. So I'm reading what the Sheikh says. This is what he says on his own authority. He says, من قول بعض أهل العصر المتعالمين, from the saying of some of the people of this time who are fraudulent teachers. He means here Yusuf al-Qaradawi, who gave a judgment as it reached me. I didn't research it. Who gave a judgment that it's, if you're like in America or in Europe, uh, you can sell the najis meat and you can sell the wine. وهؤلاء ضروا الناس برأيهم المخالف للإجماع في البلاد العربية وفي أوروبا وأمريكا. Those have harmed the people, the Muslims, by their opinion that opposes the consensus. They harmed the people and the Muslims in the Arabian lands, as well as in Europe and in America. وموه بعضهم بإيراد حديث أخرجه البخاري على غير وجهه. And they pulled the camouflage, yani they pulled the wool over the eyes of the people by, that's not a literal translation, producing, some of them, by producing a hadith narrated by al-Bukhari out of context. والحديث ورد في ذبيحة أناس مسلمين. This hadith came concerning slaughtered meat of Muslims. It's slaughtered meat of Muslims. قريبي عهد بكفر, who were just freshly out of blasphemy. وذلك لحديث عائشة. And that's for the hadith of Aisha. أن قوما قالوا للنبي صلى الله عليه وسلم, that some people said to the Prophet صلى الله عليه وسلم, إن قوما يأتوننا بلحم. Indeed, some people come to us with meat. لا ندري أذكر اسم الله عليه أم لا. We do not know if the name of Allah was mentioned over it or not. They didn't say we don't know if it's slaughtered or not. So also those people produce this hadith out of its context and are really dodging the point. And so he said, alayhi salatu wassalam, Sammu alayhi antum wa kuluh. You say the name of Allah over it. Say the name of Allah over it, you, and eat it. قالت, Aisha said, وَكَانُوا حَدِيثِ عَهْدٍ بِالْكُفْرِ. And those people were just freshly out of blasphemy. ومعنى الحديث أن هذه اللحوم حلال لأنها مذكاة بأيدي مسلمين. And the meaning of the hadith is that this meat is lawful because it is slaughtered by the hands of Muslims. وَلَوْ كَانُوا حَدِيثِي عَهْدٍ بِكُفْرٍ. Even if they were freshly out of blasphemy. They were Muslims, they slaughtered it. You don't know if they said Bismillah, you can still eat it. وَلَا يَضُرُّكُمْ أَنَّكُمْ لَمْ تَعْلَمُوا. And it doesn't harm you that you do not know. هَلْ سَمَّى أُولَٰئِكَ عِنْدَ ذَبْحِهَا أَمْ لَا. Did they name Allah upon slaughtering it or not? وَسَمُّوا أَنْتُمْ عِنْدَ أَكْلِهَا. Mention Allah, you, upon eating it. A nadban, meaning as a recommendation. La wujuba, not out of obligation. لأن التسمية سنة عند الذبح. Because saying the name of Allah is a recommendation, a prophetic recommendation upon slaughtering, according to Ash-Shafi'i, not according to the other three. According to other than Ash-Shafi'i, I don't know if they have details amongst themselves, so that's a general statement. According to other than Ash-Shafi'i, who said you have to say basmala for slaughter, they said if you don't say the basmala on purpose, even if you're a Muslim, then the slaughter is not valid. They have an ayah from the Quran that they use. Ash-Shafi'i also has his argument for what they said, and amongst his argument against that position is that the Jew and the Christian don't have to say the basmala upon slaughtering. It's just that they can't say other than the name of Allah upon slaughtering. Then it will be haram, but they don't have to say the basmala. So if that's the case for them, then more so that's the case for the Muslim. فَإِن تَرَكَهَا الذَّابِحُ حَلَّ الْأَكْلُ مِنَ الذَّبِيحَةِ. If the slaughterer left out the basmala, then it is lawful to eat from the slaughter. فمن أين موه هؤلاء بإيراد هذا الحديث على غير وجهه. So how did those people pull the wool over the eyes of some people by producing this hadith? How did they make some camouflage or smoke or make the case obscure for some people by producing this hadith out of context? فَكَأَنَّ هَؤُلَاءِ قَالُوا. It's as if they said, إِنَّ الرَّسُولَ أَحَلَّ أَكْلَ مَا لَمْ يُعْلَمْ هَلْ ذَابِحُهُ مُسْلِمٌ أَوْ مَجُوسِيٌّ أَمْ مَجُوسِيٌّ أَمْ بوذِيٌّ أَمْ غَيْرُ ذَلِكَ. It's as if those people said that the messenger legalized eating what? It's not known whether it was a Muslim who slaughtered it, or a Majusi, or a Buddhist, or other than that. As long as one merely says Bismillah upon eating. And that's how they are. They don't care where the meat comes from, abadan, at all. And they will fight you tooth and nail about this case. They say as long as you say Bismillah, it doesn't matter. وَهَذَا لَمْ يَقُلْهُ عَالِمٌ مُسْلِمٌ قَطْ. And this, no Muslim scholar ever said. فَلْيَتَّقُوا اللَّهِ. So let them fear Allah. هؤلاء المتهورون. فَلْيَتَّقُوا اللَّهِ هؤلاء المتهورون. So let those reckless ones fear Allah. وَلْيَعْلَمُوا أَنَّ الْإِنسَانَ يُسْأَلُ يَوْمَ الْقِيَامَةِ عَنْ أَقْوَالِهِ وَأَفْعَالِهِ وَعَقَائِدِهِ. And let them know that the human being shall be questioned on Resurrection Day about his sayings and his actions and his convictions.